politics and the internet. It will look at the ways in which politics has changed due to the infrastructure of the internet, and how governments have made efforts to politic the internet. The first thing that we need to look at is the change that's happened in society. It is clear that we have a network society, but it's clear from the photo that you see that it's become a very mobile network society. It's not just people knowing each other, it's people knowing each other in all different walks of life, regardless of the location that they're in. As a result, that mobile network society has affected traditional political mechanisms, because traditional boundaries and traditional borders are no longer limits. They no longer set boundaries as to how politics or political decisions may impact. This is a fluidity that politics has been confounded with over the last 5 to 10 years. It's also a challenge as to how we might govern and overcome this. A further impact has been the way in which people have become online. What we see in this data, which has been gathered by Pew Research Center in the United States, is that nearly 80% of adults are online in the Western world. It's true that this is a slanted approach, and it's true that this is not universal. But by and large, politics across the Western world has been affected by people being online continuously. Once again, that online continuously has happened through mobile technology. No longer do you need a big desktop computer to be able to be online. In fact, many of us, many of you listening to this, are online 24/7, 365. What that's meant is opinion and opinion forming has changed, and we have new superheroes, if you like, that have helped us form our opinions, form our judgments, and cast our political opinion. Blogger is a place where journalists will regularly go and post their own articles, away from the sphere of editorials and away from the sphere of traditional journalistic parameters. Many of you will get your news through Facebook. It's not necessarily the most reliable news channel, but it's the way in which news was aggregated and challenged. Search engines, of course, allow us to instantly refute, challenge, verify, or even substantiate the news and opinion that we have, and judgments are made very quickly on the basis of 146 characters that come out through Twitter. It's clear that these and many others along this kind of type of internet interaction are forms in which politics is expressed virtually every single time we look online, from the adverts that there are, from the opinions that are founded, from the judgments that are made. A clear example of where that has really borne fruit is in the Middle East and North Africa, where we had the Arab Spring. Now, again, you can always refute this and say a lot of these sites were not actually publicly accessible. Facebook, for example, was not attainable in Egypt until well after the revolution started taking place. But yet the heroes of the Western world, the heroes of the internet revolution, are bandied around as being the factors of change, the drivers of change. It doesn't really matter whether they did or they didn't. It's the perception that they did that counts in this case, as this banner held up in Tahrir Square in Egypt proves. Further evidence of this is the ways in which new technology is infiltrated into our daily lives. In this photograph, what you see is two public announcements that were made of the same kind of thing and the different impact that they have. In the top half, in 2005, you see in the bottom right-hand corner, one mobile phone. In the bottom half of the picture in 2013, you virtually only see little screens. This is the papal announcement. In 2005, Pope Benedict was announced to the world, and people stared at the balcony in St. Peter's Square. In 2013, when Pope Francis was appointed, what we saw was many people staring at the balcony through the eyes of a little screen. I'm sure many of you will know, if you've been to a pop concert or whatever, most people tend to be watching the event that's unfolding live before their very eyes through a screen. This has also impacted on politics because as a result of this, that information needs to be generated and it needs to be manufactured so that it's perhaps compatible with a small screen. Nobody wants to see reams and movies that last for hours and hours. We like snippets and sound bites. Our collection of data has also changed and the ways in which we have data readily available in our pockets. In 2005, this was very, very limited, but as we move on, the memory sticks that we carry virtually have the capacity to hold virtually everything we know. There's no reason that we need to necessarily have this information in our heads anymore. This applies to politics too, in that politics has got to interact in different ways. Political claim, political challenge can be looked at instantly. We can challenge whatever decision that's been made, we can look up any decision that's made at virtually any turn of the dice, whenever we feel like it, whenever we want to. Politics has become a 24/7 business. It can't shut down and it cannot switch off. And this is something that politics has to get used to. It isn't there yet, but it's something that it knows is a challenge for it in the future. The main impact that this has had, or the main reason that this has happened, is because of the use of the internet. When we had Internet 1.0, it was very much a one-to-many notion. People put something online and hoped that many people would look at it. Web 2.0 changed all of that because the internet became an interactive medium. And as it became an interactive medium, it's natural that something as interactive as politics would take to it. And what we see here is social use, or social network use, that has gone up by generation from 2008 to 2010 in the United States. But the United States serves as a nice precursor for the rest of the world, and you can guarantee that when this is happening in the United States, this is going to happen slowly but surely right across the world, or right across the Western world. So what we see is that most people use the internet for social network use. As a result, they are constantly dialoguing, constantly challenging, constantly confirming opinion. And opinion is what makes politics. Again, what we see is that the most active generation are the 18 to 34-year-olds. But if they're active as 18 to 34-year-olds, what we'll see is that this will only grow as they grow older. They will not change their habits, and they will not discontinue their habits. The habits will continue to develop and continue to grow. So what we will see is generational shift, that politics is fought more often keenly on social media sites than in traditional media sites or traditional news outlets. What that basically means is that we're moving towards a world that is constantly online, and the battle to control that world is phenomenal. That's where most politics is taking place at the moment, and what we see is lots of traditional countries with traditional mechanisms struggling to regulate. There is a notion that the internet is this vast free paradigm where no one reigns supreme. This is of course not true. Many governments have great ways in which they can control how the internet works and how access to internet is made available. Obviously, you can also watch, as we have seen with the recent NSA scandal. The only thing scandalous about the NSA scandal that we just had is that we thought only the United States were doing it. What we have soon found out is that virtually every nation-state's government is doing that. But by that same token, it's not just governments that want to have that reach. There's also terrorists, organizations, pressure groups, all of these that want to battle. Suddenly the whole foray of online space has become a time bomb. Lots and lots of actors, lots and lots of challenges, lots and lots of information. And the more we have that, the more precious that becomes. The more we, for example, put our records online, the more attractive that becomes to somebody who wants to steal someone's identity. The more we put our banking details online, the more money there is online to be had. So as you can see, the threat is that politics that normally keeps us safe, has to try and keep us safe online. But in order to do that, we have to understand things. In order to do that, we have to redraw some of the ways in which society has been put together, some of the makeups of society, some of the basic questions that we have. This is a little light-hearted cartoon, but it's actually quite a challenge. If somebody was watching your party through a hole in a garden fence, we would think that would be a little bit weird. But yet, we have no clue who looks at what that we post on our social media sites. So, in a sense, somewhere along the line, the whole notion of privacy has got to be opened up. The whole concept of privacy, of what we post and how we post it, has to be opened up. Recent research has shown that apparently 1 in 4 adults post pictures of themselves on Facebook, where 75% of those photos will show them in an inebriated state. That consequently means that when you go for a job, someone's going to be looking at you, Googling you, because that's the new trend, of course, and they will see things that you might not want them to see. Your digital footprint has become very, very interesting. And again, in recent recent cases that we've had, Google have had to have certain things removed from their search engines so people can wipe parts of their digital footprint. This is, of course, major political implications, Who can do this? Who should be able to do this? When could you be able to do this? If you have a criminal past, should be able to wipe that? Or is that something you have to leave? If you've been bankrupt, can you get rid of that? Or should you be able to leave that? So in short, what we're talking about is a major redrawing and a major challenge. Politics has put the world together. The internet has in a sense taken that apart and redrawn boundaries and redrawn different lines. We're struggling to put it back together again, but we don't necessarily have to put it back in exactly the same way as it was. What we see is new powers emerging and new countries having new influences. And perhaps countries aren't even the way we should be talking about this, but perhaps in groups. But don't forget, that means that the traditional underpinning of politics needs to change. The nation state was the be-all, and the government of a nation state was the be-all. That's now challenged. That's now changed. We have groups that can make governments look weak. But what does that do in traditional politics sense? Where's the accountability? And how do we deal with that accountability? There are many that will tell you different viewpoints, but the point is that there is no real one answer. And what we have is a situation where the future is for the first time truly, really ours to create. The internet has been an equalizing force. It's not a utopian ideal, but it has been an equalizing force where people from all corners of the globe can actually be able to voice their concerns and interests. The only drawback is not everyone is invited to the game, and that's what we need to look at.